Hey everybody, welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host and lead beat writer, Tucker Sennett, joining you here today to discuss some rapid fire takeaways from Dave Doeren's first press conference of, I guess, the 2026 season, because the coach finally spoke to the media to kick off the 2026 season during spring practice. NC State's right in the thick of it with spring football, and the coach provided a few updates about the roster, how things are going with this team as they prepare for what looks to be a very promising 2026 campaign for Wolfpack football. Um, you know, important returners in place like CJ Bailey back in the building, most importantly, and then also some returning staff members are simplifying things, which I'll get into in a little bit. But all in all, a pretty interesting set of facts that Doran laid out in his press conference today. Um, there'll be a lot of written content about this over the next few days that I'll trickle out over time, but just want to give kind of the rapid fire takeaways, and I'll start with the evolution of spring games around college football continues. It sounds as or NC State will not have a traditional spring game open to fans. They will have, sort of an end of spring football scrimmage that simulates game action to get these guys some important reps before, they break for a period of time and then get back into it over the summer. But no traditional spring game for NC State. Obviously, didn't have one last year, and the reason for that, even with the transfer portal still being gone um, in the spring, there's still concerns about putting tape out of your players in the springtime that could impact how other teams see things. They might like a third string player that is not going to play, and then that guy's getting tampered with in the transfer portal without you even really knowing. So, no spring game. As for, the schematic situation, much different outlook this off season with Kurt Roper, the offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator DJ Elliott back in the building. Doeren seemed to be very pleased with the way that those schemes are now installed, and so the returners are able to actually help these new players, a big group of transfers and freshmen, kind of get up to speed in these schemes and systems. Whereas last year it was sort of rebuilding the program from scratch from a strategical standpoint, because you had every single player on the roster learning something new. Um, so this is a positive development, obviously, and Bailey, according to Doeren, has been a major beneficiary of this development because he's able to take everything he learned about the scheme, everything he learned about being a quarterback during his sophomore season, and build upon it in the spring. He has his pieces now with all these receivers that NC State added, a lot of good tight ends in the room now. Doeren talked about the emphasis on adding players with winning experience. He mentioned Hunter Provience from Montana State, a national champion at the FCS level. Vander Plug, the tight end from Oregon, who, while he didn't play on a college football playoff team, he was a redshirt freshman. He still worked out with the ones and twos of this team, and knows kind of what it takes to play at a level slightly higher than what NC State is working in right now. Jamarian McCrimmon got rave reviews from Doeren. On the defensive side of the football, he said, there's a lot of production to be replaced with Caden Fordham gone, with guys like Devon Marshall gone in the secondary. But the returners have really stepped up and worked hard physically to improve their bodies, and that's paying off now on the football field in the first few practices of spring camp. Brian Nelson II was a name that he brought up the redshirt sophomore quarterback from or cornerback from a season ago who transferred in from North Texas. Had a solid year, but definitely dealt with some issues, getting burned downfield a few times and just overall, not an ideal first season with the Wolfpack. Still was a starter and a quality corner, but not to the level that a guy like Devon Marshall was playing at. So, that's going to be an important position after what happened last season, depth wise. And depth is still, kind of an issue with the roster construction of college football changing a little bit. You can't have as many guys on rostered as you used to, and it sort of changes the calculus of, do you want to push things or do you want to, protect your players? And Doeren talked about a line that needs to be maintained by the coaching staff, by the players, where the team is going to start wearing pads and hitting tomorrow, but there's a safety element because you can't really afford to lose key players with no more spring transfer portal. And that's why the spring game, that's one of the reasons the spring game isn't really a thing anymore, because there's no reinforcements coming. This is the group that you have, more or less. Obviously you can add guys who are still in the portal here waiting for their next chapter, but those are not going to be high-end players. Those would be more depth pieces that wouldn't be able to come in until the summertime. So the roster that you're going to see throughout spring camp for NC State is kind of what it's going to be. And that's just the long and the short of it, because of this new transfer portal window situation. So all in all, a kind of not a doom and gloom situation by any means, but that's just the truth of it, is the fact that there's no help coming at this point. So what you see is what you get. And that makes it so, losing a key player in spring football can be really, really detrimental, especially if it's a guy that they're hoping could develop into a starter over spring football, over summer camp and into fall camp even. And, you lose a guy who had a strong redshirt freshman season, or, watched from the sidelines last year, but you need in a key position. That could hurt this team really badly based on the depth that they have. Key position group that Doeren seemed to be very pleased with: offensive line. Teague Anderson sounds like he's really taken on more of a leadership role in his second season with the Wolfpack. Spike Souls doing the same. And then Jamarian McCrimmon, as I mentioned earlier, has come in and provided a really nice veteran presence for that group. Gained some weight during the winter training program with Coach Thunder Burnett, and seems to be adjusting to his new situation in Raleigh pretty well. That's obviously a key group with Bailey coming back. I've written a lot about that. That group could more or less make or break the season for NC State, because if they can keep Bailey upright, we know what the young quarterback can do, and that could be critical for this team. That's all I'm going to share on this podcast. Want you all to head over to our written content on the NC State on SI website. You can also follow me on Twitter at Wolfpack on SI, where I provide many of those stories. And then all of them are posted on our website's Twitter at Wolfpack on SI as well. And you can hit our Facebook page. A lot of options. You can find our stories all over the place. Do my best to get them posted for you all as quickly as possible. And as always, really appreciate spending time with you guys, talking NC State athletics. I'll continue to provide the best possible coverage that I can. See you next time.